Dr. Reddy's as a company has been started in 1984. It was founded by Dr. Reddy. He's a doctorate in organic chemistry, and we started as an API manufacturing company. And in 1986, we were listed on Indian stock exchanges, and we started our drug discovery program in 1993. Essentially, we are into three core businesses. Even though we are in pharmaceuticals, we have three core businesses. One is active pharmaceutical ingredients, otherwise known as bulk drugs or drug substances. This has been our first business, which was started way back in 1985. And the second major business for Dr. Reddy's is generics formulations, both for US, Europe, and about 45 countries in the rest of the world. The third key business is innovation businesses, which was started in 1993. Still, it is emerging business. We have a new drug discovery program. We have differentiated products. We also have biologics for regulated markets. All the three of them fall into innovation businesses. I look after the R&D for the first two businesses, which is the API and generics for US, Europe, and rest of the world. And today, 98% of the turnover comes from the first two businesses. And in the next 4 years, we expect to maintain the same contribution from the R&D that I look after. And this is our revenue growth in the last 2 decades. We have crossed first time our 100 million turnover mark in 1997-98. And 2006, 2007, we have crossed for the first time $1.5 billion. And during that year, we were the #1 Indian pharmaceutical company from India. Initially in 97, 98, our turnover was around 50% from Indian markets and 50% from outside India. And in the last 2 years' time, 85% of our turnover comes from international markets, and about 15% of the turnover comes from Indian market. Like I said, we are into active pharmaceutical ingredients, we are into branded formulations, generics, specialty, and new chemical entities. And the key skills, one of the major advantages of Dr. Reddy's is we are end-to-end vertically integrated company, giving us a significant advantage in terms of the cost, the speed of development, and offering the product to the market at the right time because of our vertical integration. And we have world-class synthetic organic chemistry and analytical chemistry capabilities in Dr. Reddy's. And we have very cost-efficient manufacturing processes, both for APIs and formulations. And we have very good intellectual property management as well as regulatory understanding of the markets where we market our formulations and APIs. Coming to our experience on implementation of CCPM, Critical Chain Project Management, this is taken up as part of implementation of Viable Vision initiative in Dr. Reddy's. What are the objectives of Viable Vision? We had intermediate objective. Major objective is to make the company ever flourishing is our major objective of implementation of Viable Vision. But the intermediate objective is to be a $4 billion company by 2012 and also have 25% profitability out of this $4 billion. And the key drivers for these intermediate targets for 2012, #1 is the base growth coming out of the currently marketed commercialized products and the enhanced growth coming from new products that are being developed every year. And the objective for CCPM for new R&D products is to achieve due date performance of above 95%. That was the goal that we have set for ourselves for implementation of CCPM in new product development. Like I said, Viable Vision S&D tree, we had base growth coming through supply chain solution and enhanced growth through new products through implementation of CCPM solution. For any major initiative to succeed, it is vital to get immediate benefits from first step. If you are going to tell our organization that, yes, we are implementing CCPM and probably we'll be able to give you the results in about 1 to 1.5 years, I think the support from the business heads, the support from top management, and support from our own colleagues could be a challenge. But if we are able to demonstrate that the through implementation of one step in a shortest possible time, if we are able to get good results, I think we will be able to get an excellent support from the entire organization, and that has been our experience. The first step for implementation of CCPM, as per the SNT tree, is freezing the projects to reduce bad multitasking. What did we do? When we have initiated CCPM in new product development, we had 157 projects during that period. Out of them, around 46 projects, we have not started any work at all. So we have put them into a separate group of new products. Out of the remaining 111 projects, we have frozen 40% of the load. That means 47 projects were frozen, and remaining 64 projects were open. And they were at various stages. And the three important steps that we have identified for the open projects. One, we have a series of steps where we develop the product. We have initially the development stage. Second is the integration phase we have identified as taking up an exhibit batch for submission to the dossier to the regulatory authority. That we have identified as a virtual drum. And initially we started with 25% freezing of the load. Subsequently we have increased to 40% load, where we felt we are able to get better reduction in the bad multitasking. And we have put up a process of defreezing, one project going out of integration, and one project gets defrozen from the frozen list. This is the process that we have put up in place. And the second thing that we have started with is full kit preparation. In fact, after implementing for about 8 to 10 weeks of implementation process, we realized that we have the structural organization structure issue in new product development. The issue was we did not have a preparations team in place. Generally, a product is selected and given to us for development, and immediately it is given to a project manager for developing the product. Normally, no preparation is done in advance before a project is handed over for development. After getting into implementation of CCPM, we realized it's extremely important to do adequate preparation before any project is handed over for development. Many times, if you don't do sufficient preparation, the project gets introduced into development, and the project gets stuck for some requirement or other. With the result, the cycle time increases, the number of projects which are there in WIP will increase, and bad multitasking will increase. Immediately, we have identified a team of 12 people from various functions and put that preparations team in place within 1 week time. And the team started initially to focus upon completing the full kit for open projects, then on the frozen projects, and then they will be getting into new products full kit preparations. We have also appointed a full kit manager to verify whether the full kit is ready before the project is introduced formally into the development. And some of the preparation steps involved are where do you source the API, where do you source the materials required for development, where are we going to take the submission batch, where are we going to commercially manufacture the product, and what is the development strategy for the product, and what are the approvals and licenses required for the development and commercialization of the product. All of them have been captured as preparatory steps, and the team has started working on the preparations for all the product. We were able to complete about 6 projects in a quarter. And now, after 12 weeks of implementation, our throughput has increased from 6 projects per quarter to 11 projects per quarter. We are tracking the project flow through a weekly report, and we could see currently about 1 project is getting completed per week. So instead of last year, we completed about 28 projects. But based on the current flow of the projects, we feel we will be able to deliver 52 projects with the same resources. We have not added a single resource. We have not added even a single machine or a facility or the infrastructure. With the same resources, we are able to increase the throughput from around 28 projects per year to about 52 projects per year with the same, 'resources. And the due date performance, When I saw some of the presentations with due date performance of 86%, I was really amazed with their current results. But we had traditionally had around 157 projects in development. With the result, there was enormous amount of bad multitasking. Lead time was very high, and the due date performance was extremely low before the implementation of CCPM. We had around 20% due date performance. That means if we make 100 commitments, we are meeting only 20% of the commitments. Obviously, we had tremendous amount of concern and pressure to improve the due date performance. But we could see that within 12 weeks of implementation of CCPM and just implementation of one step of freezing could take us from 20% due date performance to all the way up to 80% due date performance. And I'm extremely happy to report apart from the due date performance, the satisfaction of my own colleagues who are working on the projects. It's the same people working, and earlier they were delivering 20% due date performance. With just implementation of one step, they're able to improve the due date performance and their own comfort in delivering these projects. Other thing that I got the reports very satisfactory was since they are working on limited projects at any given point of time, the quality of the thinking has undergone significant change. One of our requirements was having a development strategy prepared before we initiate the development. And when I used to see the development strategies earlier, since people were working on several projects at a time, the quality of the development strategy was not really to our satisfaction. But after implementation, since people are working on limited projects, the quality of the thinking that's going into development strategy has undergone a significant change. Since the bad multitasking is also reduced, people also are finding much better satisfaction in the new way of working because they're able to see the results much better, much faster. Third, earlier there used to be a lot of crisis because since we are working on 157 projects, we had a lot of issues coming up, and it was very difficult to decide which issue requires higher priority versus which issue need not be addressed at the same time. Now what we say is if issue is not that very critical, it's not affecting the due date, keep it aside, we'll address at the right time. Do not try to address all the issues all at the same time. Just focus on one step. That one step is freeze, work on the remaining open projects. By freezing, around 25% of the resources got released from the frozen projects, which were allocated for the remaining open projects. Thereby, we are able to reduce the cycle time. We are able to improve the project completions at a much faster rate. So these were the two significant improvements we could achieve in the last 12 weeks of implementation. There were one more significant benefit that we are also able to notice. Earlier, because we are delivering 28 projects in a year using about 230 people, the number of people required per project in a year to complete a project was about 9 people per project. Now because of this improved throughput, now we require only 4.5 people per project. It is almost 100% productivity improvement with the same resources. So our colleagues are feeling extremely satisfied with this 12 weeks of implementation. Our business heads are very happy with the due date improvement in project delivery. And another important thing, we also heard the previous presenters regarding the improved synchronization work that's happening because of reduced bad multitasking. There's a better collaboration, there's a better supporting each other, there's hardly any pressure required to get the support. People are collaborating much better in this new environment. Stress is reduced, and there is far better focus on the limited number of open projects. Where are we currently? So we have implemented the freeze step, we have implemented the full kit preparation step, and currently we are into the planning process. We have prepared about 47 projects plans. We have prepared all the templates, we have prepared the project plans, put them into staggering mechanism, and we have identified the due dates based on the staggering mechanism, shared the new due dates with the business heads, got their acceptance of the new due dates based on the staggering mechanism. And we are just getting into the execution process using Concerto. This week onwards, we are into execution process. Initially, we started freezing with around 25%, and we found that we are not reducing bad multitasking significantly by freezing only 25%. Then we have actually increased that freezing to 40%. And then went for implementation. Since we have done the prioritization of all the open projects, one of the guidances that we have given is provide the resources based on a rank of the project. If it is a number 1 ranked project, make sure the project has got all the resources required. If it is a number 2 project, give all the resources required. If it is a number 3 project, give all the resources. And we had 56 projects initially in the open stage. And the people came back and told me, for the last 9 projects, we don't have the resources. What do we do? I said, no problem, don't allocate the resources till resources are released from the TAP projects. Even though we said 56 projects are open, practically we have been working only on 47 projects. This again is a major change and in a cultural aspect. In the sense, even though we kept 56 projects open, people came back and told me, we don't want to work on all the 56. We want to work on only on 47 projects where we have enough resources. Subsequently, actually, we shifted all those 9 projects where we don't have the resources. We put them back into frozen list again. So that actually it has taken up the frozen load to 50% instead of 40%. So by freezing 50% of the load, we are able to allocate the resources rightfully required for all the open projects so that they are able to progress at the fastest possible speed without hindrance or waiting for any resources non-availability at any point of time. That was also very helpful. And I would definitely like to acknowledge the support and guidance that we received both from Goldratt Consultancy Group as well as the realizations team, who are constantly with us. We are brainstorming, discussing, debating, and they were always guiding us. And it's again a major cultural change for all of us in the sense, yes, at least from your own experience, we tend to recognize the people who are tending to do many things all at the same time. We recognize a person very good if he's able to manage to do 10 things at a time, and we say he's really good if he's able to manage 10 things at a time. But we have to change our belief that it is not really good to allow anybody to work on 10 things at a time, make him work on 1 task at a time. Unless the initiated task is completed, do not take up the next task. And it took some time for us in the first 1 or 2 weeks of implementation. It took some time for us to absorb this principle and put into practice. But I'm happy that after 12 weeks of implementation, there is a complete buy-in of this principle by most of my colleagues. And this is what we have implemented in the last 12 weeks. And the key challenges for the implementation in the last 12 to 14 weeks of implementation. We said we are freezing 40% of the projects. So there is anxiety from the business heads who have selected the product, given us with an expectation that this project will be delivered with a particular due date for the project. When we said 40% of the load is frozen, there is an anxiety. Does it mean that these projects will get delayed? They will not be initiating the work on those projects? What will be the due date for the frozen projects? So we have to go back to them and then inform them that it will take about 4 to 6 weeks time for us to establish the flow of the projects. Once we are able to understand the flow of the projects, we'll be able to indicate by when the project is likely to be open. Based on the opening of the project, we can also indicate a rough due date for those projects. So this was something we had to consciously focus on, respond to our business teams. Like I was explaining, even though we said 40% load is frozen, for about 9 projects which are in the open state, we did not have the resources to allocate. So even though they are not, by definition, frozen projects, since there are no resources working on those projects, indirectly they also became frozen projects. And later we took a decision to actually put them into frozen status. Another important aspect in this process was the resources released from the frozen projects. The expectation was we should put them into the open project to accelerate the development of those open projects. One of the key challenges that we faced was our teams, based on the last 15 to 20 years of performance assessment, are usually attached to the group leader. The group leader at the end of the year assesses his performance, how did he perform during the year. But if these resources are going to work on another project for 10 days, 15 days time, and for a short duration, who is actually going to guide them, coach them, mentor them, as well as do the performance assessment if they are going to work very short duration for each project? After 2 or 3 weeks, we discussed about this, and then we said, rather than moving the resources to the projects, let us move the work to the resources. So the project teams and the resources are constant. We're only moving the work from one team to the other team, not moving the people from one team to the other team. This has reduced the anxiety of many of the people involved in this implementation. That also has helped.